It didn't happen all at once. One night, the lights just didn't come on. The screen stood there, silent, white, and hollow, like a ghost that had forgotten its own story. People drove by, slowed down, and wondered, when did the magic stop? For millions, the drive-in was more than a movie. It was a heartbeat. It was Saturday night, laughter through rolled-down windows, the smell of popcorn and gasoline mixing in the warm air. It was the sound of your dad tapping the radio knob, the glow of headlights fading as the reel began to spin. And once the film started, time stood still. You weren't just watching a movie. You were part of something bigger. In the 1950s, drive-ins ruled the American night. They were temples of light, scattered across small towns and endless highways. More than 4,000 screens painted the country with dreams. Cowboys, monsters, rebels without causes. It didn't matter what was showing. What mattered was being there. Kids in pajamas in the backseat, teenagers sneaking kisses, parents escaping life for 2 precious hours beneath the stars. There was no algorithm deciding what you'd see. No pause button, no second screen. Just one story, one sky, one night. The drive-in was the great equalizer. Rich, poor, young, old, all facing the same flickering light together. If you were lucky enough to live it, you can still feel it. The hum of the speaker hanging from your window. The fog on the windshield. The way the projector's beam cut through the darkness like a memory being born. And that moment when the title filled the screen and everyone went quiet. That's when the world felt perfect. They said it would last forever. That families would always need a place like this. That no television could replace a sky full of stars. And for a while it was true. Even as suburbs grew and cities swallowed the horizon, the drive-in stood their ground, fading, yes, but still alive, still breathing. But forever is fragile. It cracks quietly like the film reels that snapped from years of use, because soon something began to change. The parking lots weren't as full. The laughter didn't echo like it used to. And behind the glowing screens, owners started to whisper words they'd never said before. We might have to close. Televisions were getting cheaper. Families were staying home. And the light that once connected thousands of strangers was slowly being replaced by a new kind of glow. Cold, blue, and lonely. But before it all disappeared, there was one last golden summer. The crowds came back. For a moment, it felt like old times again. Kids running barefoot, parents laughing, music echoing through the night. It was beautiful, and maybe that's what made it hurt more, because none of them knew that they were watching the end. The drive-in didn't die in silence. It died in plain sight as the world turned away. Too busy, too bright, too connected to care. And when the final reel spun, and the last headlights faded from the lot, no one realized they were leaving behind the last piece of a world that would never come back. It started quietly, not with a bang, but with a flicker. The same way a bulb burns out, not all at once, but slowly until the light becomes memory. In the 1970s, drive-ins began to vanish one by one. Some turned into supermarkets, others into parking lots. A few simply disappeared, swallowed by weeds and time. People stopped going, not because they stopped loving it, but because the world around them changed faster than they could follow. Television crept into every living room. Color screens, remote controls, cable networks, comfort, convenience, control. Why drive across town when you could bring the show home? Why sit in a car when you could lie on the couch? Slowly, the ritual faded. The family station wagon stayed in the driveway. The stars above were replaced by static snow. The magic was leaving, not because anyone wanted it to, but because no one noticed it slipping away. And yet, there were those who tried to hold on. Owners who patched torn screens. Projector operators who still cleaned the lenses. Families who came every weekend pretending nothing had changed. They kept the reel spinning even when the audience thinned, as if the sheer act of keeping the light alive could fight off the coming dark. But nostalgia can't pay the bills. Ticket sales dropped. Studios stopped sending film prints. And when the land beneath the screens became more valuable than the stories on them, that was the real end. One night, a small-town drive-in played Grease for the last time. The owner stood by the gate, tears in his eyes, watching the cars pull out one by one. He said it felt like losing a friend, the kind that held your secrets under starlight. He locked the booth door, left the reel still warm inside the projector, and never came back. Years later, the lot became a shopping center. People walked over the very ground where lovers once kissed, where children once laughed, where stories once lit the sky. No one remembered. No one even knew. For those who grew up with it, the drive-in wasn't just entertainment, it was identity. It was the hum of summer nights, the ritual of headlights forming constellations on cracked asphalt. It was community, a rare kind of togetherness that the digital world can't recreate. And when it vanished, something deep inside the culture went dark too. The shared gasp, the collective laughter, but gone. Now every screen belonged to one person, every story tailored to a single feed. Connection was replaced by consumption, silence by scrolling. But the strangest thing about endings is how they don't announce themselves. The last night you went to a drive-in, you didn't know it was the last. You just thought you'd come back next weekend. And when you didn't, when life got busier and the screens grew fewer, the memory froze in amber. Perfect, untouched, waiting to be remembered. Years later, someone would find an old photograph, a faded ticket stub, a reel of film, and for a second, the ghosts of those nights would flicker back to life. Not in theaters, but in hearts, because the drive-in didn't die completely. It just went dark, waiting for someone to turn the light back on again. Decades later, if you drive through certain small towns, you can still see the ghosts. A cracked sign by the highway, a metal frame rusting in the weeds, maybe a few broken speakers half buried in dirt, their cords cut, their voices long gone. The letters on the marquee faded beyond recognition, but if you stand there long enough, you can almost hear it. That soft mechanical hum. The sound of a projector warming up for one more show. Some drive-ins tried to return. They called it revival nights. Families came back not to watch a movie, but to feel something they thought they'd lost. For a few hours, it worked. Old cars lined up under the stars, kids chasing fireflies, radios tuned to the same lonely frequency. And when the film began, you could feel time folding in on itself, the past reaching out to touch the present. But nostalgia is a fragile kind of magic. It can make us smile, but it can also remind us how much we've lost. When the credits rolled, people sat in silence, not wanting to leave, knowing the moment would disappear the second they turned the key. Today, most of those lots are gone, paved over, built upon, forgotten. Yet somewhere deep inside those who were there, the memory still glows, faint but alive. It lives in the smell of popcorn at a local fair, in the flicker of an old film on TV late at night, in that strange warm ache you feel when you hear the word drive-in. Because it wasn't really about the movie, was it? It was about togetherness, about first loves and second chances, about the sound of laughter echoing across metal car roofs, about belonging to something bigger than yourself, a moment shared beneath the same sky. People always say the past is gone, but maybe that's not true. Maybe it's just waiting, frozen in the glow of a forgotten screen, humming quietly in the dark, hoping someone, somewhere, will remember to turn it back on. And if you close your eyes, you can still see it. The screen lighting up, the smell of rain on hot asphalt, the static crackle as the movie begins again. For a second, the world is as it was, simple, golden, eternal. Maybe the drive-in never really died. Maybe it just lives inside the people who can't forget. Because even after the last car left, after the last reel burned away, after the lights went dark, the stories remained. Stories told under stars, where dreams were louder than engines and love was measured not in words but in headlights fading down the road. And if you remember those nights, the warmth, the laughter, the magic, you were part of something beautiful, something that deserves to be remembered. The drive-in may be gone, but the light it left behind still flickers in all of us who once looked up at that glowing sky. If this story brought back a memory, don't let it fade away. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who remembers too. Because every time you do, another light turns back on in the world that once was.